Commanders hire Dan Quinn to match with their new general manager, Adam Peters, to lead this franchise into the future.
The way that we live is not for everybody, okay? It's not, all right? Because we're going to run and put our bodies on people in a violent manner.
Whether the team is giving us the highest of highs or the bluest of blues, we'll cover it all here on Commanders Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So a lot of you have been asking me about what I think about trading for this player or that player. What if the team is in a really good position at the trade deadline? What do you think we should do? What do you think are some things that they could explore? So here's a couple of ideas for you. I don't really want to talk about this too much until we get closer to the trade deadline, but since I've been asked so much about this, and J.C. Horn's name has been, circulating a lot here recently. You know how people do. They hear it somewhere and they run with it, and then it spreads like wildfire. Everybody's like, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? What do you think about this? Because they've heard it 15 million times. It's that group think mentality. I don't subscribe to that. You guys know that. Sometimes the group think mentality, that's actually a good idea, which is why most people are rolling with it. In this particular case, I don't love J.C. Horn. And if I'm the Panthers, I'm not giving him away. He's in year 4 of a 5-year rookie contract. I'm not sure if they picked up the 5th-year option. They had to make that decision this year. Not sure if they picked up that 5th year. I wouldn't have picked it up if I were them. He hasn't done anything to make me feel good about picking up the 5th-year option. So I'm not even sure if that exists. He probably is a free agent at the end of this season, if I had to guess. The man hasn't played a full NFL season in 4 years, okay? His first season, he played 3 games. His second season, he played 13 and it was his most productive season, and then he injured himself. I think he tore his ACL or something and missed the rest of that season in the first, 10 games of the next season, 11 games of the next season, whatever it was. Only played in 6 games. All right, so this guy hasn't played in a full 16 or 17 game slate in his career. The most games he's played in, that was 13, and that was back in 2022. So he's off to a great start this week, or this year rather, 5 games, but I'm not interested. I'm not interested. And he's not a needle mover, personally. You're literally getting excited about a name because there's really no production behind it. I think he has 5 career interceptions. That's cool. That's not bad. Right? For a guy that hasn't played a ton, but he gets beat consistently. Did you see the Bears? Caleb Williams just had his best week of his career against J.C. Horn and the Carolina Panthers. A lot of that was on J.C. Horn because he was traveling with DJ Moore, and DJ Moore had his best week of the season against the Panthers. I'm not interested in J.C. Horn. I'm not interested in a guy who can't stay healthy. Not interested in a guy that's looking to get paid as if he's an elite corner, and he's not. I'm not interested, right? And I'm not interested in giving away draft capital for a guy that's not going to be here past this season, right? If I'm trading for someone at the trade deadline, you best believe I want this guy to be here for at least the next year, 2 or 3, right? I can't assure you that that's going to be the case. And again, the Panthers aren't going to say, okay, he's leaving after this season. Let's just get something for him. That's not the Panthers' thought process. They're like, no. We want a 3rd-round pick for J.C. Horn. And I'm like, no. I'm not giving you a 3rd-round pick for J.C. Horn. And anything that I give you for J.C. Horn has to be conditional because I'm not sure he's going to stay healthy. So he has to play a certain amount of snaps after we trade for him for you to get the best possible pick from me. It's probably a conditional 4. It's initially a 5 that can turn into a 4 if he plays X amount of snaps. I'd be willing to do that. I'd be willing to throw out a 4 to see what J.C. Horn can do. But the Panthers would be foolish to take that when you could, and there's no guarantees he's going to get a big deal elsewhere, but you could just sit on your hands, let him sign somewhere else in free agency. And again, got to see how the formula works out and how many, players the Panthers sign, how much money they spend in free agency, et cetera, et cetera. But more likely than not, if they were active, very active this past offseason. I don't know if they're going to be super active this offseason. They're probably going to get a 3rd-round compensatory pick if he goes sign somewhere else, more likely than not. So just, if I'm the Panthers, I'm not taking anything less than a 3rd-round pick. And I'm not looking to give away a 3rd-round pick. You're not getting anything more than a 4 from me. And that's a conditional 4. It's a 5 initially. So I'm not interested in J.C. Horn. That's my stance, okay? But here's what I am interested in. And so here's some things that I'll throw out there. Look, And it's in all reality, I don't want to do anything. I'm not really, my mental is, hey, we're fine as is right now because this is, we're playing with house money. We showed up to the party early. We crashed the party early. We're not supposed to be here. So in my mind's eye, I'm not really overly concerned with doing anything at the trade deadline. But again, as I mentioned last night, if you feel like this is a special season, and again, this is the NFL, you cannot assume anything. But this is the thing that you can't assume if you've got one of them ones, and we got one of them ones. Your window is massive, okay? If you got Mahomes, if you got Burrow, if you got Allen, if you got one of those guys, right? Your window, Jackson, your window is massive. You have a chance to win the Super Bowl every single year because you got one of them ones. However, every season is different. No two seasons are alike. And you can't assume that the energy and the way the guys are playing and how they're pulling for each other, this is all new. And when it's young, fresh, and new, it's always great. You've been in a relationship before. Most of you have. You know how it is at the beginning. It's great. And for some of you, myself included, it's still great. But you're not assured of that. You're not guaranteed that it's going to be just like it was at the beginning, when everything was great and you guys could do no wrong. And we can't be assured that the energy that we're getting from this team this year is the same energy you're going to get when you get players into the future. This is where adding free agents and drafting comes into play, because you got to get guys that fit the DNA profile of what you're building here. You don't want a George Pickens on your team, okay? This is what I'm trying to stay away from. You guys are willing to ignore attitudes, mindsets, the way guys conduct themselves. You're willing to ignore that for the good of talent. And what you're seeing with this team is nobody's above the team. This is all about the team. Now, Jaden Daniels is the straw that stirs this drink. Jaden Daniels is the engine that powers this vehicle. But no one is above the team. Everyone is giving maximum effort. That's what you want. So that's why I don't want a Devontae Adams, right? But I'll humor you, okay? I'll go along with your scenario. I'll play the game, right? So here's what I would be willing to entertain. I'm not saying I would do this, but I would be willing to entertain some things. The one that I'm willing to most listen, and I am actually really, really down for the cause on this one. I trade for Hassan Reddick in a heartbeat, right? He wants a new contract. Now, this is the thing I don't know. I have no way of knowing this. What does Hassan Reddick want? Right? Is he willing to take a two? Because I'm willing to do a 2-year contract with Hassan Reddick. I'll do a 3-year deal, but I got to have an out after 2, just in case I'm not satisfied with the production after the 2nd year. I really want to just do a 2-year deal, fully guaranteed. You get all your money. I'm not looking to withhold anything from you. If you're good with that, I'm good with that. We'll prorate it through this year, obviously, because you didn't play the first, and I'm gonna make it so that if we trade for him, right, he's gonna need time to get into game shape, 2 weeks or so, we'll call it. So you might not see him until week 12, 11, 12. Like, I'll pay you all the money you can ask for in that season and in the next year. So in my mind, I'm thinking a guy like him is worthy of a, 17, 18, 19 a year contract. So let's say 2 years, $38 million. Now, we're going to prorate that first year of that first $19 million. We're going to prorate it over the amount of time you've been here. So let's say you're only going to play the final 7 games. We'll prorate that $19 million. It'll probably equal out to something like, $5.5 million or something like that for the final stretch of the season, whatever the case may be. Let's say if it's $19 million, you play 17 games, that's probably like $1.2 million, $1.1 million, $1.12, something like that per game, right? You would assume if it's fully guaranteed. Obviously, if he's got a signing bonus, that would cut into some of that money. But let's just go with just a rough number of, say, 38 million, 19 million over the 2 years. Let's just say he plays 7 games. So you'd assume that that'd be like $8 million remaining on the contract that year. So I'd be willing to give him a 2-year, $27 million deal. You make 19 next year. You make the 8 for the games that you play this year. I'd be willing to sign up for that, for Hassan Reddick, because he's the type of guy that could change the game on the back end of this schedule right, into the postseason. He's the type of guy that could make a big play that could swing the pendulum in our favor down the stretch at the end of this season when you got to try to get to the quarterback. He can win a one-on-one matchup. I'd be willing to do that in a heartbeat. Call up the Jets. Hey, look, he's not going to play for you if you're not going to pay him. Woody Johnson is an idiot. I listened to this man talk about Hassan Reddick as if the problem is Hassan's not comfortable with the Jets locker room. Hassan, why don't you get in your car, drive down to the New York Jets and come into this locker room and we'll welcome you with open. It ain't about him feeling welcome. It's about him wanting to get paid. You idiot. So if they're that dumb, hey, take this 6th-round pick, man. He ain't playing for you. Take a 6th-round pick. Tell you what, just to even make you feel better about it, it's a conditional 6 that can turn into a 5. Here you go. And I trade for Hassan Reddick. Now, I don't know what the Jets are looking to do. They gave away a 3rd-round pick, I think a conditional 3rd, so they probably want their pick back. I'm not giving you a 3rd-round pick. Sorry. Not happening. But, I mean, if you want to sit there and let this man sit out the entire year, knock your socks off. Knock your socks off. He'll probably show up around I don't know what the week is anymore. It used to be week 11. You had to show up by week 11 to make it an accrued season so that he wouldn't have to be back in the same situation next year. If it's still that, he'll show up at week 11. His agents told him what he needs to do in order to get this as an accrued season so he doesn't have to be in New York next year. But if you're the Jets, why not get something for him if he's not going to play for you? If this season continues going in the direction that it's going, I'd trade for Hassan Reddick in a heartbeat. That's the one move I'm willing to do right now. Now, as far as these other ones, I'm not really interested, but I'll humor you, as I said. First up, T. Higgins. Look, the Bengals didn't expect to be here. I didn't expect them to be here. You didn't expect them to be here, but here we are. They're 1-4. They had a game on the road against the Giants. If they don't beat the Giants and they fall to 1-5, they're done. They're cooked. Their season's over. If you can't beat the Giants, you can't win this season. There's no coming back from losing to the Giants in week number 6. It's as simple as that. Beat the Giants and then see if you can start to turn your season around. But they got to beat the Giants. And if they can't do that, then I can't see them turning their season around. And if that is in fact the case, if you're the Bengals, you can't be foolish enough to sit on T. Higgins knowing that he's not going to be back next year. You're not franchise tagging him again. He's not re-signing with you because you don't want to re-sign him. Obviously, he's leaving. You can get something for him. He's valuable. You could wait for a compensatory 3rd-round pick for next year's draft, or you could say, let me get my pick right now for this upcoming year's draft. That's what you could say. Let me get my 3rd-rounder right now, right? I would do it if I were them. I'd trade a 3rd-round pick for T. Higgins. Look, I'm not trading a 2nd-round pick for T. Higgins because guess what? T. Higgins is going to be a free agent in 4 months from now, 5 months from now. I don't need to be super aggressive here, okay? He'll be a free agent here shortly. So I can wait if you don't want to give him up. But I'm trying to help you out. Give you a 3rd-round pick. This is a win-win for both sides. You get you a 3rd-round pick instead of waiting for a compensatory 3rd-round pick in 2026. You can get your 3rd-round pick in 2025. Why wait? Right? Instead of it being at the back end of the 3rd round, at the very end, it'll be somewhere in the middle of the. Well, look, our pick could end up being the best pick. It could be the 32nd pick. We could win the Super Bowl. Who knows? But it's better than whatever the compensatory pick would be. But that's their choice. I'm not giving up any more than the 3rd-round pick for T. Higgins because I know I have to pay him too. So, like Montez Sweat went for a 2nd. If I'm Cincinnati, I might say, hey, I want a 2nd-round pick for T. Higgins. And if Washington is that eager to get him, fine. I wouldn't be. A 3rd-round pick, and I'm all in. Give him to me. I'll take him, right? So that's one scenario, right? Here's the crazy, crazy, crazy scenario. Dolphins stink. Their quarterback situation is in flux. Tua probably is going to return at some point, but who knows what the Dolphins' record is by then. Tyreek Hill's been kind of floating around like, hey, I woke up to trade rumors. This is crazy. I'm not saying that he's unhappy. Florida is home, yada, yada, but they suck. And I'm pretty sure he's already said he's not looking to play, but, 3-4 more years. I'm pretty sure he doesn't want to spend those 3 or 4 years for a team that just stinks. He posted a video today of all of his Chiefs highlights, kind of insinuating I'm willing to go back to Kansas City for a reunion if, they're willing to have me. I doubt the Chiefs are interested in picking up that kind of contract. That's part of the reason he left in the first place. But I'd be willing to do it, potentially. I'd be willing to eat that, to have that kind of a receiver added to Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin in this offense. Could you imagine what a Tyreek Hill could do for this offense? We already run an offense that's very, very tailored to what his skill set is. The wide receiver screens, the quick passes, but the deep ball, we see Jaden, we see how he can let it rip. And with his ability to get deep and vertical, it could be a match made in heaven. If the Dolphins are listening and we're interested, I would be willing to do a deal to get Tyreek Hill here to Washington. And if they continue to struggle, I'm not sure the Dolphins wouldn't be interested in moving Tyreek Hill. Now, again, they've got to be interested in moving him. We've got to be interested in acquiring him. The price has to be right. I don't know how, if I'm the Dolphins, I take anything less than a first-round pick for Tyreek Hill. I mean, he's Tyreek Hill. So if you're willing to give up your first-round pick, that's what it probably will take to get Tyreek Hill onto your roster. Are you really willing to part with a first-round pick, though? We need stuff. Don't let the way we're playing fool you into thinking we don't need stuff. Elite stuff next year in the draft. We could use a tackle. We could use a left tackle still. I'm not sold on Brandon Coleman. We could use a left tackle. We could use a number 1 cornerback. Clearly. We could use an edge rusher. These are all things that I'm looking for first-round talent to use a pick on. Now, Tyreek Hill is a unique talent, and I will assure you that you will not find a first-round wide receiver that equals the talent of a Tyreek Hill. I can tell you that for sure right now. But are you willing to give up cheap labor on a 5-year contract for a player that can help you for the next 4 years while Jaden's window, he's in his rookie deal. Jaden Daniels is in the first year of a rookie deal. The window is to win now. To win now. And that's the only reason why I would be okay with spending that type of money on Tyreek Hill, because you can do it now because you're not paying a guy like Jaden Daniels. And you don't have to that's why the Texans were able to go out and trade for Stephon Diggs, right? Give him a little bit more money. Go out and get Danielle Hunter. Give him a massive contract. Trade for Joe Mixon. They were able to do all of these things because they're financially not strapped, because they got the defensive rookie of the year last year, offensive rookie of the year last year. Those guys don't have to be paid for the next 3 years. So they can spend as they please until they know that time's coming, and they can prepare for that. They can set up these deals in 3-year increments knowing all this money is coming off the books, so we can re-sign Will Anderson and re-sign, C.J. Stroud. We can re-sign the LSU corner that they drafted the year before, Derek Stingley Jr., right? They can set it up so that they're not in a financial bind, because a lot of these, they're probably not going to re-sign Stephon Diggs after this season. They're going all in right now. They gave Nico Collins his money already. So I'd be willing to entertain a Tyreek Hill deal. Another guy that definitely moves the needle if you're trying to win a Super Bowl. And that's the only reason, the T. Higgins one is less about trying to win a Super Bowl this year. It's more about the overall big picture. He's a part of the future, right? He's a part of now and into the future, right? His is a little bit different. Hassan Reddick is about winning this year, right now. Tyreek Hill would be about winning this year, right now. J.C. Horn would be more of big picture. I just don't see him fitting in the big picture. He's not nice enough to me. Those are just a few of my thoughts. Little food for thought. As always, I'm not doing a single dish. You do the dishes. In other news, We heard from the two coordinators. Offensive coordinator, Kliff Kingsbury, defensive coordinator, Joe Whitt Jr. We'll talk about what they had to say, but as always, let's take a look at the injury report for both teams, starting with the good guys from Thursday's practice. And so a very encouraging injury report 2 days in a row. Nick Allegretti and Clelin Ferrell both limited. So neither practiced yesterday, both limited today. I have no issues, no doubts rather, about Nick Allegretti playing. None. I told you, yesterday's injury report was non-threatening to me. I felt really good after seeing it. A lot of names, but it's a lot of fluff. I expect just about everyone on this list to play, right? Clelin Ferrell is a little bit different. He hasn't played in 3 weeks, so I wasn't sure. Limited is a sign of progress, but he could still be out, man. You know, I don't really know what to expect from him at this point. So we'll keep an eye on him. Fowler Jr. being back on a full basis is great news, right? We need him because we don't know what we're going to get out of Clelin Ferrell or whether he's going to play or not. So, and we don't know if they're going to finally pull F.A. Obata off of IR. Well, not IR. He was on the PUP list. And activate him because his 21-day window was opened last week. We don't know if they're going to wait till next week to activate him or if they're going to do it this week. So you need Dante Fowler Jr. So it's good to see him back on a full basis. Owens is concerning. 2 DNPs in a row for a special teams guy. A little concerning there. He probably won't be able to go. And he didn't go last week, and that's why they brought up and we're fine there, right? Because he didn't go last week, and they brought up Defoe, right? So we're strapped at safety. You know, we got plenty of safety. So I want him to get well soon, get back on the field, but don't think he's going to play again this week. Brian Robinson Jr., not as concerned as I was last week, right? Because we've seen the way that they're going to handle this as they should. He doesn't need any more reps on the knee. If the knee isn't feeling good, he can go all week without practicing and still be an impactful player on Sunday. That's kind of how I think they're going to treat this until we get to the bye week, right? I think that's how you have to treat this until you get to the bye week, essentially. So Noah Brown and Percy Butler both limited with groin injuries. Both were limited yesterday. I think it's a good sign that Noah is limited again, right? At least he's doing something. I'm still not sure if he's going to play this week, right? You can't be sure. Groins are very tricky. So I'm not sure if he's going to play this week or not. I would love to see a full tomorrow when they're not doing as much. I would love to see a full from him, but, you know, we'll see. He might go limited all week, and then they might say, no, he can't go. He may be limited all week, and then they may say he's trending in the right direction, but we'll see on Sunday. So we'll keep an eye on Noah Brown. Percy, I think, is going to play. He'll be fine. Eckler, full week, or full day. Good thing. You like to see that with a heel. I didn't really feel like the heel was that big of a deal, but good to see him out there. And then Quan Martin is limited with a neck. Keep an eye on that one. Your necks are a little tricky. Remember, he did get injured in that game and did not return, but he didn't need to return. So we'll just keep an eye on Quan Martin. And then, you know, all the rest of these guys are full participants. And Forbes is going to play. And McGee and Obata are on respective lists. IR for Jordan McGee and PUP list for FA. They're still not active yet. Their window has been opened, but they have not been activated and added to the official roster yet. So we'll keep an eye on them. I'm chomping at the bit to see what Jordan McGee can do. I don't know if he's going to be on the field, though, like in a defensive capacity. I know they liked him a lot, but I don't know if he sees the field in a defensive capacity. You know what I'm saying? Like, who you taking off the field? Bobby? You taking off Frankie Louvu? Like, who you taking off the field to get him snaps? I just don't see that happening. So, don't really know. FA is the one where I'm like, yo, I can't wait to see FA. Because in this defense, the way we play, I think FA is going to be like a great addition. A great addition. So, you go from the good guys to the Ravens. Now, at the time of this video, they had not officially put out their injury report, but I've already gotten the intel that I needed to update you on what's going on here. So Rashad Bateman, Marlon Humphrey, and Ronnie Stanley. They're 3 big starters that I told you to keep an eye on. All practice today. All 3 of them practice. So they're going to be fine. Those guys are playing. You know, Marlon Humphrey practice, right? So those are the guys that I was really looking at Marlon Humphrey like, hey, Could I potentially get you out of this game? He's like, nah, bro, I'm good. So Malik Harrison is a starter. So is Broderick Washington. Those two did not start or did not practice, excuse me. Neither did Arthur Marlette, their nickel corner. So those are some guys to keep an eye on. But outside of those three, I think everybody else, it's pretty safe to say that they're going to play on Sunday. So the only three you really need to be concerned with at this point is Broderick Washington, Malik Harrison, and Arthur Marlette. Everyone else, they're going to go on Sunday. So don't look for any extra, any extra bit of help from an injury standpoint. They're relatively healthy, and that's the way it should be. That's the way it should be. So now we go to in other news, and let's talk about what was said at the press conference today, starting with Kliff Kingsbury. So Kliff, I love Kliff. I love both of our coordinators because they're direct, they're straight to the point. They don't mix words. They say what they mean what they say. And Kliff talked about Jaden's development and how well he's playing and the work that he's put in. And that's been a consistent message from Kliff about how, Jaden's been, putting in the work. He's been consistent with his work ethic. He's getting there early every single day, same time. He talked about, so there was a funny exchange about the play calling in terms of the amount of runs and passes. And Sam Fortier asked Kliff Kingsbury, if you had to throw it 40 times with Jaden, would you be comfortable doing it? He's like, hell yeah. Come on now. You know my background. I'd throw that bitch every down if I could. Essentially is what he said. But he's like, we have to play to the strengths of this team and what's the best way of us playing and how efficient we need to be. But yeah, I would love to see Jaden throw it, 40 times, a bunch of times in the game. And I'd love to call those plays because I know he's capable. I know the work he puts in, and I know what he's capable of doing. And yeah, we could be super successful like that. And I'm glad that he's not in charge because maybe that would be the case. He's got this stud quarterback, and that's what I've said we need to guard against, right? Is the urge of, man, Jaden's really good. He's good in the pocket. He's good out of the pocket. He makes great decisions with the football. He can use his legs when things break down. So even if I make a poor call or the defense has a great call against the call that we made, he can still make me right. There's this urge to say, you know what? Shit, let him throw it 37 times this week. And I'm like, no. He hasn't thrown it. I don't think he's thrown it 30 times in any game this season. And he shouldn't. He shouldn't, because we can run the football. And that needs to remain the main thing, right? Running the football should be priority in terms of the balance of this offense. We should always have more rushes than pass attempts. The only way that shouldn't be the case is if we get down big in a game and we have to kind of get away from the run game and throw the football, or we're playing against a team that just isn't having it on the ground and you're banging your head up against a brick wall, and instead the more efficient way is to throw the football. And maybe that's this week against the Ravens. They're one of the best run defenses in football. They're one of the worst pass defenses in football. So maybe that's the formula this week. But even when we couldn't run against Cincinnati, we still ran it anyway. And I think that is important for keeping the balance that needs to be kept in order to have this offense win time of possession, which has been big for us, especially when you're playing a team like the Ravens, where you really would like to win the time of possession to keep their offense off the field, right? So it was funny to hear him say that, because I know he would love nothing more than to chuck it 45 times with Jaden. I'm like, nah, we need to stay away from that. And he lit up too. He smiled and everything, laughed. So, he was like, bro, come on now. I would love to do that. If this was my squad, I probably would be doing that shit. I'm like, well, I'm glad it ain't your squad. He talked about the receivers and the effort that they're putting in, and, how, specifically he was asked about Diami and Luke, but as they customarily do, he lumped the entire group together. It was like, look, all of these guys are playing well, and we love what these guys bring to the table. And everybody's selfless. And he was asked about Jeremy McNichols, and he, just to wrap up the wide receiver conversation, he said, it's good to see Diami getting an opportunity. He said, look, Diami hasn't done much, in his career up until this point. I just remember him being a guy that could run a speedster out of North Carolina, hasn't done much. And then we get here, and there's going to be an opportunity for him. Then we go get Noah Brown, and Noah kind of gets in front of him. And he said he never flinched the entire time, right? Put his head down, continued to work. And I'm glad to see him take advantage of the opportunity when it came. And we feel like anybody in this group can do that. We put somebody out there, we feel like they can make plays because that's the makeup of this group. Then he talked about Jeremy McNichols. He's like, we trust him in every situation. There's not a single situation. And this is the thing I think I learned about Jeremy McNichols watching him, is that there isn't a situation that you can't put him in that he can't get the job done. We saw it in week 3 against Cincinnati where he hadn't played all game. They throw him out there in the most crucial third down of the game. He doesn't know what to do, and he just goes and back body drops a defender, right, in pass pro. They could throw it to him out of the backfield. We saw that in the preseason. He can catch out of the backfield. And then we've seen his running style. It's incredible. He's like, we can put him down in the goal line, short yardage. We've seen him score a touchdown each of the last 2 weeks. And so he's like, we can put him down in short yardage situations, fourth down. We know he can do it. And we've seen what he can, do when we get him the football. So he's saying, you see what he does on special teams, right? Dude is a total team player. And you see how the players respond to him when he scores because they respect what this guy puts in on special teams and all of the things that he does. So again, just kind of reiterating that whole team first mentality, guys being more excited for other players' success than their own, that type of thing. And so Kliff talked about his relationship with the Ravens offensive coordinator that came from Georgia, Todd Monken, who was in the NFL before with Tampa Bay and in various places. Joe Whitt Jr. talked about being in Cleveland with Todd Monken. So this staff has a history with Monken. Maybe that'll benefit us this week. We'll see. But, Kliff had talked about talking to Todd Monken when he was back at SC last year. If he were thinking about getting back into the NFL, how did he make the transition so, seamlessly? Because Monken had went and helped them win national championships at Georgia. Then he was able to come right back into the NFL and assimilate, pretty seamlessly with the Ravens. And now he's doing it again with Derrick Henry. So he talked about that a little bit. But by and large, Kliff is like, we're locked in. This isn't a big game because every game is a big game. So we're not isolating this as a big game because next week is a big game. The week after that is a big game. Last week was a big game. Every game is a big game because they're trying to be baited into this is a measuring stick game, and they're not going for the shit. And I don't know if the staff has gotten that through to the players, but to a man, only one person fell for the bait. That was Jonathan Allen, right? He was the only guy that and you should have seen the reporter who kept asking the question to everyone. Forgot his damn name. I said his name yesterday. The one that I said looked like he could work for a scandalous Hollywood blog. He kept asking everybody. He was waiting for one person to say yes. And finally, Jonathan Allen said, yes, you should have seen his face. He was cheesing so hard. He was shaking his head hard like, yeah, okay, yeah. Now I got a quote I can run with for the news today, right? I was like, don't give him that shit, man. But it's not a big deal. Anyway, Joe Whitt Jr. Talked. And we heard from a number of players too. But we don't need to get into that. Nobody really said anything earth-shattering. But Joe Whitt Jr. talked about the defense. I'm telling you, every week Joe Whitt Jr. drops a gem on my melon, and he makes me feel like this is going to happen. Last week, he was very specific about we're going to stop the run. We're going to stop the run, and they did. This week, the message was very simple. We have not had an interception all season. He said that is 5 games. He said, I don't think I've ever been a part of a program, something that I've had my hands on in any capacity. DB's coach, defensive pass game coordinator, whatever. He's like, I don't think I've ever been a part of a team that I've been on the staff where we've gone 5 consecutive games without an interception. This is crazy to me. And when they brought up Quan Martin dropping an interception, you should have seen his face like, And he's like, that was teaching tape. He broke on it. Everything was perfect, and he didn't finish it. He didn't catch the ball. He's like, we have to take it away. And like, he is like fixated on it, and I love it. I said this last night. The standard is the standard. It shouldn't change. You shouldn't bend it. You shouldn't alter it or adjust it for anybody or anything. The standard is the standard. I do takeaways. That's Joe Whitt's like, I do takeaways. We haven't taken it away enough. That affects me. I lose sleep at night because we haven't had an interception this season. It was crazy. I was looking at the leaders for each team. And, you know, the Ravens interception leader, I think is Marlon Humphrey's got 2 interceptions. And ours is a dash because we don't have any. And Joe Whitt Jr. is like, this shit is unacceptable. I don't know how y'all do it, but I don't do that shit. So he was asked about Noah Igbenogany, and he said, well, Noah came to us late, us being Dallas last year. So, because they traded for him. And they traded for him like week 8 or 9. So he's like, he got there late. We already had, you know, our, you know, rotation established. So he really couldn't help us anywhere but special teams. But he got here at the same time as everybody else. And you've seen that he's been able to work his way into the lineup. And we feel good about him. So it wasn't a situation. They were trying to paint it as he couldn't get on the field because there was so much talent in Dallas. And he's like, nah, that wasn't the case. He just got there late. He got here at the same time as everybody else. And the dude can play. And I've seen that. I've been really impressed. He's one of the guys that has impressed me the most of all the free agents that we have signed. And that I didn't expect as much from. Let me make sure I clarify that. So he talked about the corners and the rotation and you know, Emmanuel Forbes Jr. in particular. And he's like, look, every week we're going to put the best guys on the field that we see, you know, being able to make an impact. And look, this is the group. I'm just telling y'all right now, this ain't going to change week to week unless something, you know, happens to necessitate that. He talked about, and I keep telling y'all, Mikey Sainristil still is not a boundary corner. This is being done out of necessity. He sees him as a guy that's going to move back to the nickel at some point. But right now, they don't have another boundary corner that they trust. They trust Mikey as a rookie, so they're going to keep putting him out there. But they would love nothing more than to put Mikey back inside, because the only way for him to get better as a nickel is to keep getting nickel reps. But he's getting outside reps right now because we don't have that guy. So they're playing him to the field right now. And he's like, you know, it is what it is. We would prefer to play him inside, but Noah Igbenogany is more comfortable inside, and Mikey is probably more comfortable inside, but he's better than anybody else we got outside of Benjamin St. Juste. So we got to do what we got to do, essentially is what he said. And Forbes, he's not playing because we don't think he can help us right now. He's healthy. There's nothing wrong with him. We just don't trust him. I don't blame him. Neither do you. So he talked about his relationship with Todd Monken. Will that help him? He said, I think I kind of got an idea of what he's going to do. Can we stop it is another question, right? It's Derrick Henry, it's Lamar Jackson. Easier said than done. He also talked about, you know, Lamar Jackson and the toughness of defending him. Derrick Henry, he said, look, it's just about, you know, playing gap, sound, control defense. Like, we treat him like we treat any other running back in terms of how you stop the run. He's a big dude, obviously, and, you know, there's different things but we have rules of how we engage each running back each week. And these rules for Derrick are specific, and if we adhere to them, we should be fine. So that was essentially his message. And I think we're gonna get an interception this week. That was the gist. That was the biggest takeaway, the overarching theme, if you will. We're gonna get a takeaway this week. That's what I feel. So let's go behind enemy lines and talk about this Ravens game. And I'm gonna be honest with you. I made a boo-boo. I made a mistake. So I'm gonna try to correct this on the fly, but I didn't load up the stats. So I got to try and do that right now. And I hope we can, I got it. So yes. All right. My fault, guys. So this is Washington stats as we go behind enemy lines. Fourth in total offense, almost 400 yards a game. That's crazy. First in scoring offense, we know that. We've been talking about it all week. Number one scoring offense in the NFL, averaging 31 points per game, which is crazy. We haven't averaged over 20 points a game since like Jay Gruden administration. Back in 2018, I think, was the last time we were over 20 points a game. Now we're at 31. That's wild. Passing offense, 14th, 214.2 yards. That's right where we need to be. We don't have to be this massive passing team because we run it so well. Sacks allowed, 12, tied for 13th in the league. Rushing offense, second, and that's why the passing statistics don't have to be off the charts. We don't need to be top 5 in passing offense when you're second in the league in rushing at 178.4 yards per game. Third down offense, we're first in the NFL. I talked about that last week. That needs to be something that we lean on heavily in this game against Baltimore, and I'll explain that tomorrow when we get to the keys to the game. Total defense, 14th overall, so we're climbing a little bit. Hey, look at us. I said if we could be middle of the pack defensively, this is a playoff, damn near caliber, championship caliber team, right? Look at us. A little bit better than middle of the pack. Scoring defense. Now, the last 2 weeks have really, helped us. Scoring defense, 20th. We're still giving up 23 points a game, but when you're scoring 31, guess what? You win. Would like to see that come down a little bit more, and it has the last 2 weeks, obviously. We're still recovering from giving up 33 to the Bengals. That's the one that really hurt us. 33 and a 37 to Tampa. Those two really hurt us bad. So we're still recovering from that, but we're making progress. Passing defense, 31st in the league at 280 yards. But you can look at it, it's twofold, right? We were really bad to start, obviously. And again, we're still recovering from that. But also, even though it hasn't impacted us the last 2 weeks, when you're blowing teams out, they're not running the football, they're throwing the football. So there are passing yards to be had there as well. But that's really not the case for us. We didn't give up over 200 yards to either quarterback the last 2 weeks, even though they were blowout victories. So we're still recovering from the first 3 weeks of the season. That's really where the damage came there. So we're making progress. 8th in sacks. We were down towards the bottom just 3 weeks ago, and now all of a sudden we got 15 sacks and we're 8th in the league. Top 10. Love it. Rush defense, 22nd in the league. We're continuing to progress each and every single week there. We were 24th last week, 22nd this week, so making some progress everywhere, right? Third down defense. Look at that! Look at that! We were 32nd in the league, dead last for the first 4 weeks of the season, or 5, weeks of the season, but 2 straight great performances, 4 of 11 against Arizona, 1 of 13 against Cleveland, and look at that. We've brought it down to respectable at 43.64, 23rd in the league. Look at that. Now, don't let that shit go all the way back up to 31st this week, playing the Ravens this week. But look at that. Look at the improvement. Time of possession, 4th in the league at 32 minutes and 20 seconds roughly. And that's a big stat there. And in turnover differential, I told you we were back to 0 because we lost the turnover battle by 1 and we were only +1 on the season. So we're right there where everyone else in the league is. We're tied for 15th. So, we got it. That's the emphasis this week. We got to create turnovers. We got to take care of the football. And I think we'll do that this week. So now we go from our stats to the Ravens. All right. So the Ravens are number 1 in the league in total offense. This is what we're dealing with. This is the animal that we're up against this week. It's not an easy task, and we still have questions about our defense. A lot of those questions will, I don't think they will be answered, but you'll feel either a lot better about the defense or you'll feel a lot worse about the defense after this game. I don't know if there's an in-between here, right? Because if they just do a solid job this week, you're gonna, okay, they're better, right? They're what we saw the last 2 weeks against Arizona and Cleveland is legit. If they're horrible, then you go, okay, maybe they're not that good defensively. They just played bad offenses, right? Scoring offense, they're second in the league. We're first. Look at that. And we're first by a full point and some change. And nobody else in the league is averaging 30 a game. We're averaging 31, okay? Passing offense, they're 9th in the league at 236 yards per game. So they're a top 10. They're a top 10 offense all the way around, pretty much. Sacks allowed, only 5. That's the Lamar Jackson effect. Yeah, only 5 sacks. They're first in the league. He doesn't get sacked, right? Rushing offense, they're first, obviously, between Lamar, Justice Hill, and Derrick Henry. Good luck stopping those guys. 211 yards per game. That's insane, by the way. Third down offense, they're third in the league at 50%. When you have a mobile quarterback like Lamar, just like we have, they're hard to stop on third downs because even if you play the right defense and you do everything right, the X factor is their legs, and that's how you get first down. So they're just as good on third downs as we are. Total defense, they're 19th in the league. They give up 340 yards a game, so they're not that much better than us there. Scoring defense, 26th in the league. They're giving up 25.2 points per game. That's more than us, right? So we're giving up 23 points, I think I said. They're giving up 25, right? Passing defense, they're 10th in the league. It's 175 yards per game given up. Per game given up. They're 6th in sacks. Kyle Van Noy has been killing it this year. That's only one more sack than we have, right? We're 8th in the league. They're 6th in the league. So they only got one more sack than us. Rush defense, they're killing it. 60.4 yards per game. And they're just so big inside. Pause. Like they're physical. They run to the football. It's tough, but that doesn't mean you can't run on them. You just got to pick your spots. I wouldn't try to run up the middle against them. Now, if Broderick Washington doesn't play, I mean, that's a 330-pound man right there. Like they got a bunch of those dudes, though. Bunch of 330-pound dudes. It's what they do. Like, Pierce is like 345, 350 pounds. Like, that's why it's hard to run on them. Don't run on the inside. Run on the outside. Stretch those guys, right? Pause again. Third down defense, 42.6%. That's probably good for my guess. Actually, they're giving up 30.61% on third downs. I'm guessing that's tops in the league. If you're holding teams to 30%, if they're not tops, they're probably like first, second, or third, or fourth. No worse than fourth in the league at 30.6% on third downs. So they're really stifling teams on third downs. Time of possession, they're 8th at 31 minutes and 37 seconds. And then turnover differential, they're +1, which is where we've been most of the year. So they're tied for 11th. So they're not taking it away either. They're just not turning it over as much. So again, it's almost like looking in the mirror. So the key is going to be, can you establish yourself on the ground, stay balanced, stay in manageable third downs? They're one of the best third down defenses in football. But if the reason that they're one of the best is because you can't run on first down, you can't run on second down, right? And if you're not completing passes on first and second down, and you can't run it on first and second down, you're in third and long. Now we can pin our ears back. Now we're getting off the field on third downs. They got 16 sacks, right? So that's something that you got to keep in mind when you're dealing with these Ravens is they're really, really good on first and second down, putting you in third and long, putting you behind the sticks, and then forcing you to have to try to make a play on third down. And a lot of teams aren't able to do that. We're different. We are able to do that on third and long, but we don't put ourselves in third and long a ton. So let's continue to be efficient on first and second down and do the things that we've done. And I think we'll be just fine, right? Just fine. But I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. I can't wait to read your comments from the opening of the show and some of the things we've talked about throughout the course of this show. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys next time. And then obviously tomorrow we will have our preview and prediction for this game, keys to the game, and all of that good stuff. I'll be live tonight after Seahawks and 49ers. Again, 49ers not playing well right now, but you have to assume they're still one of the better teams in the NFC. How do we stack up? You should be watching this game, if no other reason, just to say, hey, we can beat them, right? Or, hey, they look pretty formidable. They're still the 49ers. Respect them for who they are. You should be taking a look-see. Right? These games have different meanings now than they did before because we're in a different place than we were before. Anyway, I digress. Enjoy the rest of your day. I look forward to chopping it up with you. Until then, you guys take care. Have a good one.
Here comes the Diesel. Here comes the Diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hole. He's got the first down.